Okay, preparing. This meeting is being live streamed. Got it. Setting up meeting for YouTube Live. Okay, preparing. This meeting is being live streamed. Got it. Okay, can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
We are live on YouTube.
Okay.
And I'm going to, if you want to go ahead and talk, I'm going to end the other meeting.
Sure.
The other stream.
Should I be able to see that on YouTube?
Yeah, it's public. It's on our channel. And there are 6 people watching right now. So hello, everyone.
Hello. Okay. Here we go. Just want to make sure I get the comments.
Oh, yeah. It's on our channel. And there are 6.
Alrighty. Cool. I see it. Just getting all my stuff organized here.
Oh, yeah. There's a bit of a delay. I'm hoping I look good. I got a nice portable light source. So hopefully I am well lit.
Yeah, I was just going to tell you, you got to fix your hood. You got it.
There we go. Oh, sorry for the delay, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. I'm here, and so is Mark Houghton, and you can see us both. I'm in Amarillo right now because I'm playing with the Amarillo Symphony this week. We're doing 4 performances of Mahler Symphony Number 4 starting tonight. So if for some reason you happen to be in the Texas Panhandle, you should come out and see some of the performances. This is really just out in the middle of nowhere. It's out in the middle of nowhere, but Amarillo is a really weird town because it's the only big city for a very, very long ways. So there are huge parts of Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Colorado, all sorts of places where Amarillo is the big city. It's the closest big town. So everyone comes here to do their shopping. Anybody in that wide area comes to see symphony performances. We regularly sell out our hall. Our hall is much nicer than you would expect in the middle of Amarillo, Texas. Like tons of car dealers. Everyone comes here to buy their cars. This is the place for a lot of people to do their business. So it's out in the middle of nowhere, but in the same way, it's like the center of nowhere. What have you been up to, Mark?
Boy, really busy with lots of different things. Lots of projects for Houghton Horns, of course, that's ongoing. And then I'm also involved in our Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra musicians social media as well. So just had a meeting this morning with them, and exciting stuff there too, but never a dull moment. And it looks like we're starting to pull out of the pandemic a little bit.
Yeah, it's great.
Which, it's difficult for me to even remember what life was like in a way. I think probably a lot of us can relate to that, but it'll be nice to get back into that rhythm. And I will take a much deserved break from all of this online focus that we've had over the past year plus now. It's been great. I've learned a lot, and I've gotten to do some cool projects, and definitely will continue with some of that. But I am also getting to the point where I'm pretty burned out. I think we all feel this way to some some more than others, right? But to some extent,
Mhm.
everybody. So yeah, staying busy. We're going to go on vacation really soon, and we're leaving this weekend. Going to take a little break, and I'm going to put my phone on, you know, turn my notifications off and go to the beach. And I think it will be really nice. I've got to bring my horn on the trip, so I will do a little practicing, but
Yeah, no rest for the weary.
yeah. So one of the things that we were going to talk about in this live stream is just uh, taking breaks, right?
Yeah.
And learning
Hmm.
to come back after taking a break and not getting freaked out about taking breaks. So
And by the way, before we go into that, I want to remind everyone, like, please leave questions in the chat, not just about what we're talking about. All of these are just brass, you know, general brass tips. Things about playing French horn or playing any other instruments. Feel free to ask those questions. Like, for example, I had someone email the sales email yesterday asking when our next live stream was, because he wanted to ask a question comparing the Yamaha 671 to the Stambi Elite. So if you're in the live chat, just let me know, and that you're here, and I'd be happy to talk talk with you about that comparison. They're very spoiler, they're very, very, very different horns. There's not much similar between the Stambi Elite and the Yamaha 671. Aside from price point, it's a very similar price point. Um, but yeah, I'm thinking about taking a vacation here pretty soon as well. I've got to finish up these concerts. I have an audition coming up at the beginning of next week. First real audition in well over a year, since before the pandemic. So that feels weird. And actually,
right,
frankly, I'm a little more freaked out about it than I normally am. I think I've gotten out of the habit of auditioning. Well, at least everyone else has as well. And I'm not as, like, even keeled about it. I'm more like freaking out a little bit. Um, that's just how it is. Um, got to pick up some Marcus Bona cases yesterday. We got some interesting colors coming in, some new styles. I always have fun picking out the Marcus Bona cases because I get to be like, it feels like I get to be a fashion designer for a little bit. Like, let me combine this color with this color. Maybe some customers will like this combination of colors. Like, ooh, should we add a touch of leather to this one? Marcus Bona allows total customization, so we get to do fun things with our stock orders. But
yep,
yeah,
lots of options.
but yeah, did that. Gonna take the audition, and then I'm gonna head to Chicago later next week to see my parents that I haven't seen in over a year due to the pandemic, and get to introduce them to my newest baby, Leonard, who's 2 months old, and they'll get to see my daughter Harriet again, who is 2 years old. But I'm trying to debate between taking the horn or not taking the horn. Because unlike Mark, I don't have any more performances or auditions scheduled for a while. So what do you think, Mark? Take the horn or don't take the horn?
I say don't take it. I think that would be. I think the universe is trying to tell you you need a break, and I think and I think it's important to be able to, especially everybody, we're talking to people of all sort of different backgrounds here, but you know if you're an amateur player and you're just doing it purely because you love it anyway, that's maybe a little bit different. But if you're like us, and this is your primary drive in your life, and it's your career, and you make a habit of practicing every day, and even missing a day feels strange, then I think it's also important to embrace the aspect of a break being healthy as well. Like, we tend to not. I mean, I remember when I was in school, if I took a day off practicing, I thought, I felt like I was reinventing the wheel the day that I came back. and 2 days was just forget it, and a week was madness, And the older I get, the more that I value the breaks and the recovery, and it's just as much about recovery. But it is a mental break, and a sort of an artistic break. It's time to recharge and find things that can inspire you outside of your daily routine that can sometimes get a little, well, routine, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize that the older I get to, the easier it is to come back after some time, and I don't dread it as much. I don't freak out about it as much, and I view that time as more of a release rather than a time of anxiety away from the horn. I think your muscle memory and your ability to come back increases over time. The older I get, that's certainly been the case. You're drawing on a large reservoir of experience as opposed to a puddle of experience as when you're just getting started, right? And I
Yeah,
think that
isn't that weird how that happens? Because it's the same thing for me too. When I was young, I felt like I would take a day off and it would take me 3 days to get back. And now, like, I take a day off and it's like, okay, it's fine. But yeah, you're right. Like, it's like drawing off of you get more experience. I guess you don't forget how to play again.
yeah, and then I think it's important to remember that uh, our life experience outside of the daily grind is often what can be the inspiration for better music making, you know, in our coming back to it later. So, you know, I mean, all these great composers, Mahler used to go out to a little hut, in the wilderness essentially, and get inspired and compose. And that was I mean, he was working on his vacation, I guess, in one way, but the isolation and the inspiration was critical for him, right? So I think much in that same way, try and look at time off as a way to recharge your batteries and draw a different life experience so that it can be saved for later expression, right? I mean, that's music is about life, right? And if you're too busy practicing to live life, then that's also a problem. The other thing I'll say about it is you can do a lot. This sort of brings into mind the mental practice aspect. We talked a little bit about this before, but and this goes more into recovery rather than like taking breaks or vacations. But there's a lot that can be done without the instrument. There's a lot that can be done just mentally in a session where you close your eyes for 5 or 10 minutes and imagine playing something your best, or imagine even going through uh, more rudimentary types of warm-ups and that sort of thing, um, which seems strange, but if I would challenge anybody who hasn't done this to try it and see if it doesn't uh, sort of amount to a great deal more than you might think. Um, so, yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of wish that I could. I think it's healthy to take time off, right? Um, and I kind of wish I didn't have to bring my horn with me for this vacation coming up, but that's okay. I'm going to treat it like it's also a family thing. So I'll be playing with my daughter, and maybe we can play some duets and stuff like that and make it fun.
Mhm.
I just, as long as I get a little FaceTime so that I'm not completely out of the loop, because I've got a concert when I come back.
Right.
Um, but a lot of it is also just not, trying to not be anxious about that missed time and feel like you're going to lose ground, because that obsession too is something that I used to have, and I think it's pretty unhealthy. If you can look at it like you're just going to, it's funny. I always think, especially if I take an extended break, I come back as a slightly different player, and it's very interesting, and I try to embrace that. There are things after a long break, I come back and there are certain things that have changed in my playing, and I generally feel like it's an evolution, right? Like that it gets better.
Hmm.
I have some new insights, right? So that's another reason I'm a big fan of learning to take some breaks, right? Some extended breaks from your instrument, and
But
you just
you know,
embrace. Got to come back a little bit different, and that's part of our evolution as instrumentalists.
and a lot of it kind of goes down to like how many of the issues that you're having with playing are not physical issues, but mental issues. And then you have to give yourself a mental break to really work on them. Kind of comes down to like, for example, if there's a note in a concerto or a solo that you miss all of the time, how often, I would suggest that you sometimes close your eyes, play through that piece mentally, and you'll find a lot of times you miss it in your head too. And if you're missing the note in your head as well, where's the problem? I'm not
Right. So
saying the solution to that is necessarily a mental break, but it also goes to show that just pounding away all the time is not always the solution.
right, and then that goes to show you that you've sort of encoded the mistake in your mental software there, right? So you
Mhm.
got to go and kind of debug that. And I think that it's not always about, like you said, it's not always about just, you know, going harder at it in the practice room, right? It's
Right. And I know, like I'm in a different place than you, obviously. Um, you know, you, you have a big job and you can relax a little bit. To me, I have to fight getting into the mode of always thinking, well, any moment I'm not practicing, somebody else is. It's like, oh, I'm not practicing. I didn't practice this evening. Someone else practiced this evening and they're gonna get that next job over me. While that might seem like the kind of attitude that works well in like a sports movie, it's not necessarily the healthiest attitude in real life. And it's not necessarily the attitude that's gonna get you, that job that you've always been looking for.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though that you bring that up. I think it generally is a pretty healthy attitude to have, right? To be realistic and to be
Hmm.
slightly neurotic, right? So I always feel like on the spectrum of things, being neurotic is probably healthier generally, but again, that's a balance. Like it can get out of hand too. So I remember one of my old middle school band directors had a similar mantra about if you're not practicing, somebody else is practicing, and it is worthwhile. I think that's just a good motivator for especially for young students. Um, but yeah, just finding that balance, right? Really important. Um, I This is a pretty open discussion. We certainly welcome any questions.
Hmm.
We got a
Well,
few
well, we,
people.
well, we had a little lower viewership at the beginning because, like, I normally schedule these things about an hour in advance, and that allows people to get into the room. But I had to cancel the schedule event because we had to make a last minute switch in our technological solution here. Because I'm away from my normal streaming computer, and my little MacBook Pro is chugging along as hard as it can right now. In fact, I don't know. I can actually hear it over my headphones. It's still spinning up quite hard right now. Um, but yeah, we're starting to get many more. We got 15 watching now, um, from a low of 6. But yes, please leave questions, leave comments, you know, about anything, brass playing related. So when was your last vacation?
Uh, well, I mean, it depends on how you define it. We came down to
How do you
Texas,
define vacation? Yeah.
right? I mean, we came down to Texas last summer, but it's usually we're usually killing two birds with one stone at least. So we were
Hmm.
doing our TMEA project. We were, hitting covering a lot of bases. So a lot of times vacation is like that for me these days, where it's like it's a quote vacation, but it's not really uh,
Yeah.
a real,
I don't know
time.
about you. Sometimes I feel like traveling with the kids is just never a vacation.
I hear you,
Because
man.
yeah, it's just it's just family management at that point.
Welcome to my life. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean it is fun to once you're once you've really planned something, like we're going to a beach rental, which is really cool. It's something we haven't done, and um
How did you guys
has
even choose South Carolina? That doesn't come up first when I think of like vacation destinations.
well, it's pretty close to us. It's within decent driving distance, and so yeah, if we weren't out here geographically where we were, we probably wouldn't consider it. But it's actually really nice, and we're excited. I've never been to this part of South Carolina, so um, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exciting. We'll see.
Cool. Are you going to be near the islands or anything like that, or?
Yeah, Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
So there's a lot
basically,
of
so basically, if for some reason you've ever wanted to meet Mark Houghton, you can find him on a beach in South Carolina next week. He'll be the
yikes.
one running. He'll be the one running behind three kids
Yeah, right.
while playing a horn.
Either that, or I'll be buried in the sand somewhere. Probably more
Hmm.
likely.
But yeah, and sometimes I wish I could take a break from electronics. I have this realized I forgot to turn off the notifications on my phone. It's like a constant stream of texts, and I know other people who work in office environments are very familiar with Slack. The tons of Slack messages and emails, all the time. And you can't really turn them off for too long because then they just build up. Uh, oh well, maybe we can vacation when we're 80. We have a question here from. Let me see. Actually, I can't read the name. It says, "What exercises do I do to help improve accuracy and control? Beginner and had hiatus from playing due to school. Now it's summer. I can finally regularly practice, and I'm back to cracking notes. Cracking notes again. Yeah, don't we all just crack notes? um, Accuracy and control. So, Mark, if you don't mind, I'll go first, and then I know you probably have some thoughts on this as well. 'Cause I have, and I'll be interested to see whether you agree with me or not, Mark. Um, I kind of believe working on accuracy is folly, and that working on accuracy is actually counterproductive. Most accuracy exercises I've seen out there amount to nothing more than target practice to me. It's almost like it's trying to train you to like just target certain notes. But when you end up doing that, you end up adding a lot of unnecessary tension to the embouchure. And you're consciously trying to control fine movements that can't really be controlled consciously. I'm not saying they can't be controlled, I'm saying they can't be controlled consciously. I used to have major problems of accuracy. I mean, like, I couldn't get through an excerpt without cracking a couple notes. And I would take auditions, and like it would just be that like cracking a couple notes in an excerpt is not necessarily gonna get you out. Cracking a couple of notes in every excerpt is going to be a problem. And that's where I was. And I would continue to do accuracy exercises all the time. I think the better way to work on accuracy is to concentrate on tone and the correct usage of tone, the correct usage of air, and your ear. So working on your ear, I like to do long tone exercises out of the Vizzuti book, which is actually for trumpet. But here's a little secret. It really doesn't matter what brass instrument these exercise books are made for. I use the Arvid book, which is trumpet. I use the Vizzuti book, which is trumpet. And I use the Rochu, which is for trombone. Those are the three major books that I use, and none of them were written for French horn. But I practice long tones out of the Vizzuti book, and I turn on a drone, and I just listen for the notes. And through that, I'm always going for a nice, open, clear, and easy sound. If I don't get that clear and open, easy sound, then I make sure, how is my air moving? Is it moving efficiently? For me, my habit is to move the air too slowly. So I'm always working on making sure I'm moving that air fast enough, because slow air means you have to work more. Fast air means that the air is working more for you. Not more air, by the way, fast air. So aside from the Vizzuti long tone exercises, I like to do the Vizzuti technical exercises, again, with the drone, not specifically being worried about accuracy, but working more on the tone of the notes, the the clarity, the intonation, and those things help me with accuracy immensely. What are your thoughts, Mark?
Well, yeah, generally agree. I think that you have to look at it holistically, right? It's not this one aspect that, in fact, I have a lot of, and someday this is a whole other live stream or two. I have a whole routine that I present and I do parts of on a regular basis. There's a lot of bullet points in that routine, and none of them are accuracy. Okay, so accuracy is just sort of, it comes with all of the other healthy approach that you have day to day. I would say if there's anything close to a prescription for it, I would say it starts with the harmonic series. So that would be just the open harmonic series. I know this person that uh, posed the question. They're saying they have a single B flat horn, um, which is not ideal for working on harmonic series. I would say the best place to start the harmonic series is on the open F horn, and you of course need a single F or a double horn for that. But it's doable on the B flat as well. I would just say really getting acquainted with the natural harmonic series, where the horn wants to center those notes. Um, and and of course, if you're unclear on this, we have a lot of resources on our website that talk about this. There's a great beginner horn book that we publish called Recipe for Success that has a lot of really helpful exercises, fundamental exercises that have to do with harmonic series. Harmonic series slurred and legato tongued and staccato tongued. I mean, all of these different variations come out of it. But really, like when we're working with a harmonic series, we're allowing the horn to center the notes where the horn centers, where the horn wants those notes to be. So the less we can fight with the horn and the more we can kind of accept, okay, these are where the notes are. I'm going to sort of give up a little bit of control, which as horn players we always want control. We play a conical brass instrument that is notoriously difficult to play accurately. Okay, so of course that's going to be a big thing for us. But I found that again, that holistic approach of like understanding what the horn wants to do, and then yielding a bit to what not fighting, I guess, the instrument. I know that Tuckwell had and I don't remember what book this is in. Tuckwell had a whole series of accuracy exercises, and I believe they were on open F horn. And I'm apologizing because I can't remember where this is published, but he did have exercises specifically to address accuracy. And I think this was something he developed when he was recording some really treacherous stuff. He created these exercises kind of based on, I think it might have been Zelenka, super high, screamy stuff. Um, so there's stuff out there, but really, I would say go back to the harmonic series, start very slow, very patient. Um, and allow the horn to kind of tell you where the notes are. And there's a bit of discovery in that, and then there's also a lot of ease and efficiency you discover when you don't fight the instrument's natural tendencies. So I hope that helps and makes sense. Um, yeah, so don't treat it so much as target practice, but rather uh, let's create a holistic approach where your entire environment is about good habits, and the accuracy will come as a byproduct of that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, accuracy is good. Accuracy is a byproduct of good tone and good articulation and you know good intonation. Um, yeah, um, I hope we helped. I see that's some awesome eye-opening advice. Thank you very much. Well, uh, you're very welcome. And again, if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to ask. We're here to talk about anything. Um, that's one of the things when I take a vacation. Sometimes I feel like I have to, if I take 2 or 3 or 4 days off, I do have to take some time to almost um, find my tone again, because I will personally start to fall back into my habits. I know everyone has habits that they fall into. Like for me, it's a covered sound. So I'll fall back into a covered sound. I'll fall back into articulation that's too heavy. I will fall back into a tight close sounding low register and a strident high register, and all of these things. I you know I can say that I've conquered most of them. Like I can, they're not an issue for me when I'm regularly playing. But when I take a vacation and I come back, they're staring at me in the face again, showing me that working on those habits is really going to be a lifelong process. They're never going to completely go away and never going to completely get over them. It's a constant fight until the end. Do you
Well,
have
just
anything like that?
yeah, I mean, there are things, there are aspects of my playing that I don't like, and I know that are are weak, right? So, and those things haven't changed in a while. Actually, they're pretty much, they're still, I still have to work on really the same things. Do they get better? Yes, they get better, especially in a focused period of time where I've really zeroed in on them. But they do lapse, they, and all elements can lapse. But um, yeah, you might think about too, just general advice for people coming back to the horn after not playing for a while or taking a long break. Um, you can sometimes a good approach is to just play simple tunes like folk melodies or easy songs that we all know, right, in different keys. You can turn on a drone just to get things going, playing things that are deep in your memory and don't require a lot of technical prowess, right? And it's also good to just train your mind to transpose these melodies in different keys. I'm talking about like Take Me Out to the Ball Game or Happy Birthday or any of these basic things, right? I hope that makes sense. But challenge yourself to do that. Sometimes putting on a drone really helps. That's always a good way to come back. I like, one of my favorites is the theme from Mahler 1, the third movement, the Frere Jacques in minor, right? So stuff like that. I can take that all over the horn in different keys, and sometimes that's a great way to come back after a long break. There's some statistic about, I was thinking about this, and I'm probably going to get some element of this wrong, and Derek, maybe you're familiar with it, but I guess every 7 years or so, like all of the atoms in our body, I guess, maybe this is BS, I don't know, tell me. Um, I've heard that everything in your body basically rearranges anyway, right? Like and our DNA keeps things, and maybe I'm talking.
Yeah, it is a bit of a, um, it's not quite true. And um, the the example of that is the fact that you still have your scars. Like your scars
Right.
never go away. So
Okay.
if it was
Well,
actually happening, yeah.
I'm probably out of my element here, but I guess what I'm saying is that we change, like we evolve, and it's again about like after coming back from injury, for example. Like I had this left hand injury a while back, and I had to come back, basically start over with my left hand, in all of my technical stuff. And boy, that was really tough. And I came back a slightly different player. Do I have everything back that I had? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it really matters. I mean, as a horn player, this is pretty minimal. If I was a violinist, that would be potentially career ending. The injury that I had, but thinking about coming back, you can also find all these great inspiring stories of people that came back after car accidents. Jen Montone was one of them. A good friend of mine, John Carroll, had a really bad bike accident, lost his front teeth, and had to like rebuild from square one. But these people, myself included, with my left hand issues, you come back, you rebuild, and you're slightly different. Really, like everything about it is slightly different. I'm sure I do things that differently now, and possibly better, more efficiently. You come back a different player, and I think on some level you come back a different player every day. But when we take bigger gaps, it's more obvious, right? It's
Mhm.
more apparent that like we're starting over again in a new way. But again, like I said before, try to view this as an evolution, right?
Mhm.
We've got
I
another
have another.
question.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering, what are some things that help produce smoothness while playing? I have some thoughts on this.
Go ahead.
Well, one of them is actually quite simple. Watch what fingerings you're using. Like, I've seen people like playing like from 1 and 2 to 2 and 3, like going from a fourth line D to a third space C sharp, or in A to a G sharp. Um, so like that's not a fingering that's going to be smooth on the vast majority of horns. So you keep working on the smoothness through. You can keep working on smoothness through that, but it's never actually going to be all that smooth. You should consider 3 to 2 and 3. And on my double horn, I do that all the time. And I don't know how well you can see here. I don't have my feedback monitor, but like my third B flat slide is pushed in all the way so that I can play, so that when it is necessary, not always, but when it is necessary, I can play D on third and go down to 2 and 3 with my second finger. That's going to be much, much smoother. There are other examples of this as well. For example, if you play the fingerings that's in every fingering chart at the bottom of the staff, those are very rough fingerings on most horns. So if you're going up a C scale, C, D, E, F, G, that's not necessarily the smoothest way to handle that. If you go C, D, so I'm on the B flat horn now, E, F, G, on the vast majority of horns, those fingerings are going to be much smoother and they're not going to have nearly as many bumps. And there are places all over the range where you really need to consider, like if you got a bump between two notes and you can't solve it, you really need to. You still there?
Yeah, I lost you for a
Oh,
second.
oh, we have losing your audio. Well,
I
hopefully,
lost your audio. Well, you're back
okay,
now.
okay. Hopefully the audience didn't lose my audio. What was the last thing you heard?
You're just talking about alternate fingerings, solving
Okay.
problems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically, if you know, everyone should consider at the bottom of the staff using a lot more B flat horn. When you're going from combinations like 1 and 2 to 2 to 3, you should consider 3 to 2 and 3, and so on. But a lot of times, if you're dealing with a passage where things are rough, you can find an alternate fingering that can smooth it out. Now, that's not the only thing you should do to improve smoothness in your playing, but it's something I find that's often overlooked. People seem determined to stick to that fingering trick that they learned in 6th grade, and that's the only fingering trick they should ever use. Uh, what are your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, I agree generally. I'm at a point where I find it very dorky, but also enthralling to come up with fingering solutions, right? So um, some of them are some of them are even pretty unconventional, um, but that's okay. So be open to exploring. And another thing to think about here too is fingering combinations or using um, using notes on the F horn in a register that you maybe normally wouldn't, or vice versa with the B flat horn. Where those notes sit, pitch wise, right? What the tendency is. So that's another thing that comes into play with alternate fingerings, is in a given context, right? If you're on a third of a chord, you want it to be low, so you could devise a solution whereby your alternate fingering is maybe unconventional but fits perfectly well in terms of being a low major third in a chord, things like this. So you can really start to dork out on this stuff, and I guess I've definitely gone down that road because I've been playing long enough. It's just sort of comes naturally at some point. But earlier on, I think for most people that are just starting out or just trying to improve, yeah, be open to the alternate fingerings. I would say another really important aspect is um, to try practicing with what I call gooey valves, so very slow movement um, of note changes on simple things like scales. And it sounds very smeary. I'll play a little bit here for a second, but it sounds a little strange. I know we would never perform like that, but I'm really trying to imagine imagine we have really sticky rotors or we have like molasses stuck on our horn. Um, and you're blowing through and changing your finger, you're changing your valves very slowly and blowing through those note changes. That can engender a lot of smoothness. And then when you take that back, so if you isolate a little passage like that and then go back and play it normally, um, oftentimes it's a lot smoother. Um, Again, another idea that's not related to alternate fingerings is just the sense of sustain of line. Like if we have a sense of musical map out our musical line in a given phrase, I think we can smooth things out just by having an idea where we want to go, right? So if you identify the peak of a phrase, then you can sustain and drive towards that and then come away from it. So, and I think this sense of direction or a blueprint or a roadmap for every phrase that you have, it may seem pedantic in a way, but once you start mapping that out and giving it some thought and planning it out, it becomes more automatic. But that can add also to a sense uh, of smoothness and sustain to the line. So anyway, see, yeah,
Hey, I switched out mics. Do you can you hear me a little bit better without coming in and out?
sounds fine right now. I think,
Okay.
yeah. So I probably have to wrap it up here pretty soon. I don't know if we have another question. Um,
Uh let me see. Oh, we have another comment. Um I used to do for fun in my practice natural horn mode where I press my vowels 1 and 3 to be an F and play classical excerpts with just the harmonics and hand stopping as if I'm a natural horn. It's a great, that what that really works well for? Not only smoothing things out, but it forces you to actually speed up your air. Things are, if you use slow, lazy air, it's not going to really work when you're trying to play the horn in natural mode. How do I control the volume of my sound when trying to play softer or louder? Hmm. So here, so here's the thing. I have lots of thoughts on this as well. You always need fast air. A mistake I see a lot of people do is they slow down the air to try to play soft, and then you get a lot of burrs, and people have problems really beginning the notes, and they're having problems beginning the notes because there's just not enough energy there to get it started. But if you actually think of your airstream being a little larger, technically you're increasing the size of the aperture, but don't think thinking of that consciously while you're playing is a way into the gutter. Um, Thinking of that air column being larger while still maintaining that speed, for me tends to result in a softer sound and a softer confident sound. Because here's the thing, you always always need to sound confident. Your soft playing can't sound like you're tiptoeing and scared of playing. You got to figure out how to make it soft and confident at the same time. And yeah,
yeah,
thoughts, Mark?
just a couple. Sure. Long tones are great for this. Controlling, learning to control your volume and your color spectrum. So I also think about um, temperature of air. Like I view in certain situations, I think you want to feel like the air is warmer, and in other situations, colder. This could be for register or color or any number of things. But I also like to think about the air controlling the color spectrum of the sound that you're creating. So pulses or long tones, traditional long tones, soft, loud, soft, loud, or pulse or tiered, right? There's again, this is a whole other live stream or two on this stuff. Long tones, I think they're great. They're difficult if you do them correctly. So start out in small, take small bites. But that's really, I mean, they're worth their weight in gold. Really, it's something that again, not playing regularly in ensembles, I find that I throw some of that stuff in at least a few times a week in my playing, and it's the closest thing I can do to replicate the type of playing that I would do in a bigger group. And you really kind of get out the microscope and look at all these aspects. So yeah, they can be. Some people find them boring, but I actually find them kind of. Uh, let's see, what's the word? I'm fascinated by long tones. Right? They're a fun challenge, and you got to take them seriously. But again, don't bite off more than you can chew. Um,
I would
yeah,
also I didn't hear what you just said because my AirPods died, so I had to go to stream was a little longer than they could handle.
yeah,
But the don't do the same long tones every day. That would be my advice because that gets boring really quickly. You got to keep it fresh. You know, sometimes I like to do the Vizzuti long tones, which move through like major, minor, diminished, and so on chords. Sometimes I like to do the long tones that I find in Eli Epstein's book. I forget what it's called, but I think he's only written one book. So Eli Epstein's book, which is just half note on, half note off, half note on, half note off, hold for 16 while going from pianissimo to forte to pianissimo. Sometimes I like to use the Quality Tones app, which is in the Apple App Store. What that does is it puts up different tones for you. So like it might have a G that's held, and then you swipe the screen, and then it will be like just a short B flat, and then you swipe the screen, and then it might be a high C, going from with sports sandals with a wah, wah, wah. Um, so yeah, I mean, I like to keep the long tones fresh. Basically, I do them every day because they're really necessary. But also, I don't know about you, Mark, but I think sometimes I see people online in different forums and they recommend like, oh, just do long tones, do lots of long tones. And they're like recommending like, oh, do 20 minutes of long tones, do 30 minutes of long tones. Like that birds me out. I really think 10 minutes is a good time to devote to long tones. I kind of think when you're doing more than that, you can get into just like making your lips start to feel weird. At least for me. Like what is your ideal length for a long tone exercise?
well, if anything, this all these questions are telling me that we really need to devote a whole live stream to long tones, at least
Oh wow,
discussion.
but like the most exciting streaming title ever. Like
Yeah,
long tones.
yeah. I
But
mean,
it's
I
important.
it is. I went through, and I agree that you should mix them up. When I say long tones, I mean Bill Vermeulen likes to call them quality tones, and it's a slightly different take on it. But I think it accomplishes all the same stuff and more. And I think the Quality Tone app is really great. So if somebody's asking about a book, I mean, you can find long tones in any book. You don't really need a book. The Quality Tone app is a great place to start. It's on the App Store or the Android Google Play Store. You can download it to your phone and get started on that like today. Um, but definitely varying the type, and long tones aren't always loud and tiresome. Like you can just do soft long tones, for extended periods of time. See how soft you can sustain a note. Some of those are the most challenging for me. Um, but yeah, I went on a kick for about 2 years solid where unless it was like my birthday or Christmas or some crazy emergency, I did long tones every single day that I did not have a concert. Um, and I I gotta say that I haven't resumed that schedule, but it was really valuable. And there are certain things that my playing was at a certain place where, boy, I was very comfortable holding notes and attaining different colors. My attacks were really great. I mean, I need to there are elements of that time that I miss, but it was a big commitment, and um, I would always put it at the ends of the day. It would be the last thing I did. in the day. Sometimes it would be late at night. But that would be before a long reset where I wouldn't, I'd go to sleep and not play until the next morning. So I would say put your long tones, if you're going to do them regularly, put them at the ends of your session. Don't play them before a performance. I made the decision to just not play them at all on days that I had performances. So be wise about it and structure them. You can, if you have a really heavy practice day, then don't do heavy long tones. You know, don't be a knucklehead about it, right? So
Yeah.
if you have a light day, then you can do the heavy stuff later on. So just balance it, and that's
Mhm.
definitely a worthwhile
Yeah.
consideration when you're taking
Yeah.
this stuff on.
Yeah. I know we need to end this stream pretty quickly here, but I really want to get to Sue Kim's comment here. Please, for the love of God, don't do that thing in the Farkas book where you put the horn on the piano and you try to play with absolutely no pressure. Number one, there's a good chance you're going to knock the horn off the piano. And number two, you really don't need to play with zero pressure. Playing with zero pressure actually is going to result in a very poor tone. Everybody plays with some pressure. And really, you got red rings around your lips, who cares? What matters is your exhaustion level. And frankly, if you're getting exhausted really quickly and like your lips are hurting after each session, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but really the solution to that is proper air, not more air, proper air. You might be trying to play, especially high notes, by constricting your lips and pushing them together and like getting really tight instead of keeping everything here relaxed and just getting the air into your horn, getting your head out into the horn, thinking out here and thinking of your air out here rather than getting stuck in here. Any thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Sometimes I like to think about just focusing on what's coming out of the bell, getting out of my head. There's a time for that, and there's also a time for analysis. And I would suggest, Sue, I don't know how far along you are, but in some ways it doesn't matter. I would really look at the Recipe for Success book on Embouchure. Some of those resources are on our website, but I would say if there's any book that helps, I mean, not seeing you play and not knowing anything about you, it makes it a little more difficult. But I find benefit from reviewing those concepts as well. And I've been playing horn forever and
Mm-hmm.
in orchestras. But I think another thing to think about without getting too technical, yeah, that Farkas thing is weird. I even think that I'm not even so sure that he believed it himself. I don't know. Somebody jump in there if I'm wrong, but that's a strange philosophy. Like there's going to be some pressure that's required. There's contact, right? There's going to be pressure. Um, Having said that, like let's just think about being efficient. Part of the efficiency comes from, and this is where you should check out the Recipe for Success book because it talks quite a bit about this. I like to think about it as almost like the Holy Trinity. You have corners, right, and chin, and you have firm corners and a flat chin. And if we have that balance in the embouchure, it's everything is working
Mm-hmm.
sort of in concert, right? And we want to have somewhere between a pucker, right, and a smile, right? And there's a balance there. It's half pucker, half smile.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so again, not seeing you play, I can only say so much, but it would probably be good to review those concepts, and then once you've sort of reviewed them, keep tabs on them. But then it just becomes about getting what I call your horn face on, so those concepts are in place, and then riding on your air,
All right.
and that's really
Everything Mark is saying is completely correct. I would just warn you to get that puckered smile and to get those firm corners and flat chin. You shouldn't be putting a whole lot of effort and energy into it. Bill Vermeulen likes to say something a lot. Playing horn is easy. Not that playing the horn is an easy task. It's that playing the horn actually doesn't require that much grunt and muscular effort and like, that much athletic effort. It's more about fine tuning and precision and efficiency than it is about muscling something into place. So again, everything Mark said is correct. I would just warn against muscling it. I would warn against muscling it in.
Agreed.
All right. Okay, I think really that's enough for today. I think we're getting into the point where we could go on forever. I do want to make one point. Houghton Horns does not sell a pressure training device, and it will not sell a pressure training device as long as I have a say in it. It's just not going to happen. I firmly don't believe in those things. But yeah. Any closing comments, Mark?
No, that's about it. I'm gonna tell you again, Derek. You should take that break once you have a chance.
Yeah.
Get away from it, it's healthy. And then for everybody, if you've been grinding on the horn forever and ever, and you can't remember the last time you took more than a day or 3 off, it's probably time.
Yeah. I'll report back. Right now, I'm leaning towards not taking it. We'll see what actually happens. When I make that leap, am I going to drive off without it?
Right.
All right.
It's all in your
I
head.
will. Yeah. I will see you. There'll be no live stream next week because I assume you will still be in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll be in Chicago by that point. So we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye, everyone.
Right. Thanks.
Oh, that's right. I don't